Kuzuzampo, and welcome to the e-learning session of Mathematics Key Stage 4, class level 9 and 10. So today I'll be taking you through the topic that is trigonometry. Now, when you talk about trigonometry, we split into two words. The first one is trigono, which means it talks about triangle. Then the next one is metry, which talks about measures. So now here, when you look at these two words, trigonometry, we are talking about this triangle and how to measure the sides or the angles of the triangle. So measurement with regard to the triangle. Now in regard to trigonometry, we will be always dealing with right triangles. Now let's recapitulate what you have learned in your lower classes. So in lower classes, you have learned about different types of triangles: right triangle, scalene triangle, isosceles triangle. So now we will be dealing with right triangle. And till class 6, you have been learning about these three different triangles. Then in class 8, you had been taught about Pythagoras theorem. So again, the talk about right triangle comes out here. So now in this trigonometry, we'll be going through the right triangle only. So let's say that you have a right triangle and one angle is already known, that is the 90-degree angle, and the other two angles are the acute angles. So that is angle X and angle Y. Then you have the sides C, B and A. So now when you deal with the right triangle, we are dealing with two unknown acute angles and the three sides. Now that is angle X and Y that we don't know, and the side lengths A, B and C. So now using this trigonometry, what we can do is, when these two things out of these five, that two angles and three sides, out of these five things, if two things are given, you can find the rest three things. So that is how the trigonometry works out here. So now we will be dealing with trigonometry identities. So in trigonometry identities, first thing what you should know is, you should know about the right triangle, and when the angle X is out there, that is your angle X. With respect to this angle X, this becomes the hypotenuse. As you know that the longest side is known as hypotenuse. Now let me take through the sine, cosine and the tangent ratios. As you know that, as I have already said, when two things are given, we can find the rest thing. Now we should have some ways to find out. So this sine, cosine and tangent ratios are going to really help us to find out the other three unknown variables, unknown angles or the sides, with the help of this sine, cosine and the tangent ratio. Now let's talk about the sine. So how to find out the sine of an angle? So sine of an angle is the ratio of the opposite to the hypotenuse. Then cosine of the angle is the ratio of the adjacent to the hypotenuse, and tan of an angle is the ratio of the opposite to the adjacent. So now you can understand in this way also: SOH CAH TOA. So this is how you understand. So it's like SOHCAHTOA. So it's somewhat like that. So you can understand in this way. So when you're talking about sine of an angle, is opposite over hypotenuse. When you're talking about cos of an angle, is talking about adjacent over hypotenuse. We are talking about tan. When you're talking about tan of an angle, is talking about opposite over adjacent. So this is how the ratios, three ratios are there. So these ratios, usually it is constant for certain angle. For 60-degree angle, the ratio of the sine of that 60-degree angle will be always same. when we compare with different types of triangles. So I mean to say here is that the sine of an angle, the ratio of sine of an angle will be always same. So now let's take you through the next slide, that is talking about cosecant, secant and the cotangent ratios of a right triangle. So now cosecant is hypotenuse over opposite, secant is hypotenuse over adjacent, and cotangent is adjacent over opposite. So this is how it is. So in fact, if you see here, it's just the reciprocal of the first three trigonometry ratios. The cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, and secant is the reciprocal of cos, and cotangent is the reciprocal of tan. So this is how it is. So now if you see here, sine means sine of the angle is 1 over cosecant of that angle, cos of the angle is 1 over sec of that angle, and tan of an angle is 1 over cot of an angle. So this is how it is. Then if you go in the other way around, when you find out cosecant of an angle, then it's 1 over sine of that angle, and secant is 1 over cos of an angle, and cot of that angle is 1 over tan of an angle, tan of that angle. So now here you can see that these are all reciprocals of each other. I'll just take you with one example how to find out the ratios. So now let's say that we have these three sides of the right triangle, that is 5 centimeter as the opposite. So now your opposite is 5 centimeter. Then your adjacent is 12 centimeter, and your hypotenuse is 13 centimeter. Now we got our opposite, adjacent and hypotenuse. Now we can find out sine of that angle. So let's say that your right now your angle is x as per the question. So sine of angle x is opposite over hypotenuse. That is, opposite is how much? Opposite is 5, right? Then what's your adjacent? No, what's your hypotenuse? 13. So that's how much is coming around. Then let's say that cos x is what? Cos x is adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent is how much? Adjacent is 12. Hypotenuse is 13. So 12 over 13 is 0.92. So this is the ratio of sine x and cos x. Then you can find out tan x equals to opposite over adjacent. So what's your opposite? Your opposite is 5 centimeter, and what's your adjacent is 12 centimeter. So that means it's coming around 0.42. Now let's look at cosecant of angle x, that is the reciprocal of what? Sine. So we already got the value of sine x, that is how much? 0.38, right? So 1 divided by, replace the value of sine, 0.sine x, 38. So now you are going to get is how much? You are going to get is 2.63. So this is how you find out. Then let's talk about is the next ratio, that is after cosecant, then it comes secant. Secant x is what? Is the reciprocal of cos x. So 1 over cos x value is 0.92. So that is coming around 1.09 if you round off. Then now the last one, that is cot x is equals to 1 over is the reciprocal of tan x. So what's the value of 1 over tan x? 0.42. So that is equals to, if you happen to divide this one, you are getting is 2.38. So this is how it is. So now let me take through the next part. The question says determine the acute angle for which each is true. Now let's say the sine of angle x is 0.8. X is angle x, we need to find out. So this is your angle x. Now when you find out angle x, it is sine inverse 0.8 x is equals. Now how to type sine inverse? Now you take your calculator, press shift. First you press shift. It's on your left hand top corner. Press shift and then press sine. You will get this type of symbol. So then type 0.8. You are going to get is how much? 53 degree. You will get 53, and that should be 53 degree. Then now cos of an angle. The second question says cos of an angle is 0.5. Now x, how to find out angle x? Again similar. You will be applying cos inverse 0.5. So again press shift, then press cos. After pressing shift, then you are going to get is 60 degree. So this is how it is. Now the next question I will take you through is cosecant of angle x is 2. Now here, so cosecant, now you know how to find out sine of angle x when sine x is given. You know how to find out angle x when cos of angle x is given. So now using this knowledge, how can we find out cosecant of that angle x when the cosecant of angle x is given? So in this case what you do is you apply this knowledge. So cosecant of angle x is the reciprocal of what? Is the reciprocal of sine, right? So sine x is equals to 1 over what? Cosecant of angle x. So now what you will do is you will do the similar manner, but in this case in the cosecant of x you will put the value of cosecant x is how much? 2. You will put it here. Then you will follow the same step. So angle x is how much? Sine inverse of now how much? 1 over 2. It's better when you put this fractions in bracket. Then angle x is how much? Now angle x is coming as 30 degree. So this is how it is. Then the last question that we have is cot of dash is how much? So this is question number 1 we have solved. This is question number 2 which we have solved. This is the third one, and now we are going to solve is the fourth one. So fourth one is cot of 1.4. Yes. Now here there is a blank space here. So that means we can put here the unknown variable, that is let it be x, 1.4. Now again cot x we cannot find out angle x because there is no cot inverse in your calculator. Likewise cosec inverse is also not there. Even secant inverse is also not there in your on your calculator. So now cot x, what you will do is we will use the reciprocal of cot x is what? Reciprocal of cot x is tan x. So therefore we will be using tan x. So is 1 over cot x. So tan x equals to 1 over cot x value is how much? 1.4. So I will take you here, okay, and let's continue here. So angle x is equals to tan inverse of 1 over 1.4. So what's the value of angle x? Now your value of angle x is 35.54 degree. So this is how you find out. So this is how you find out the angle of angle x if you know the ratios. If you know the ratio, trigonometric ratios. So this is how you find out. Now, so this is now let me take you through the other slide. That is, you might be wondering now, we have learned about trigonometry. Where does it apply? What's the purpose of learning trigonometry? Now I'll just explain in brief what's the use of trigonometry, okay? So that to make the lesson quite interesting, there's a person and there's a tree now. If the tree is short, it's quite easy for us to measure the height. But when it comes to a tall tree, it's quite difficult to measure the height of the tree. So now, in this case, your trigonometry comes out here and it can measure the height of the tree. Now, first thing is that the distance between the tree and the person should be known, and then we can find out the height. But another thing that you should know is, as I said, two things you should know. That is the distance between the tree and the person and the angle at which he is looking at the top of the tree. If you know that much, we can find the height. In the next lesson, you will be taught about how to find out the height, just that I am giving you the idea of how to use trigonometry in our daily life. Then the next one, when you talk about measuring the height of the tree, it's quite, you find it quite simple. Now let's talk about measuring the height of a mountain. So this becomes quite impossible type. But when you use the trigonometry, what you can do is, from the base of the mountain, you first you measure the distance between you and the base of the mountain, because measuring the distance on the floor is easy. Then what we can do is, now our main motive is to find out the height of the mountain. But another thing what you should know, as I said, you should know two things. The next thing that you should know is the angle at which you are looking at the top of the mountain. So this is how it is. Now, the distance between you and the base of the mountain can be measured. Now you might be wondering, how can I measure the angle at which you are looking at the top of the mountain? So with the help of this instrument, you can find out the height. Okay? So this is how it is. Then now, as I have already taught you about all 6 trigonometry ratios and how to find out the angles of the how to find out the acute angle if you know the trigonometry ratios. I have assigned you a work, that is, so here for the given right triangle below, determine the trigonometry ratios of angle x. Now here there is a problem. That is what? I'll give you the hint. That is, you don't have the hypotenuse. Now how to find out the hypotenuse? Now you should go back. In class 8, what you have learned? In class 8, you have learned about Pythagoras theorem. Apply Pythagoras theorem and then first find out your hypotenuse. Then you can find out all the 6 trigonometry ratios. Okay? Then now here. So today, what you have learned, let's try to recapitulate. So it's about trigonometry ratios you have learned. Now, by now, I feel that my objectives are being fulfilled, as you would be able to explain all the trigonometry ratios. That means we are talking about the 6 trigonometry ratios. And now by now you would be able to find out the angles, acute angles of the trigonometric ratios, and then you will be able to determine the trigonometry identities. That is what? Sine of an angle, cos of an angle, tan of an angle, cosecant of an angle, secant of an angle, and cotangent of an angle. So, this is my lesson. Hope you have enjoyed, and thank you very much.